Good morning, everyone. It is just truly my honor to be with all of you tuning in and everyone on this panel with me. The COVID crisis has required us all to be creative and nimble to keep our community safe and fed through increasingly tough times. Along the way, we've worked with a lot of people and sometimes unexpected partners, and we've been inspired again and again by how folks across our community have shown up to fill every plate. A Twin Cities yoga teacher was donating her class fees to fight hunger. A food shelf client has organized food collections in her apartment building, and the stories go on, and here comes a great one. We've been especially honored and proud that Minnesota's sports teams and networks saw the growing need and joined the fight. Those leaders are here with me today to talk about the commitment they've made and the powerful partnership we've built. First, I'm thrilled to share the results of our work together. Through the Home Teams for Hunger campaign, here we go. Almost $46,000 was raised to support Minnesota's Feeding America food banks. This means nearly 140,000 meals were provided to neighbors experiencing hunger, many for the first time due to the COVID crisis. And we can't stop now, as desperation and the colder weather are really setting in. No one can solve hunger alone, but everyone can do something to move us closer to a future where no one has to worry about how they're going to fill their fridge. This support allows us at Second Harvest Heartland to meet the new COVID-safe ways, meet the need in COVID-safe ways, and we'll keep on pivoting to allow truck-to-trunk delivery even as winter sets in. We'll continue to push for policy changes that end hunger, and we'll continue to work to make it okay to ask for help if you're not sure how you're going to feed your family today. You're far from alone right now. Now, I have the great pleasure of inviting Mike Dimond, Fox Sports North General Manager, to talk about the Home Teams for Hunger, Home Teams Against Hunger campaign. It has been an amazing ride, Mike, and thanks so much for your help, and I'll pass you the mic.
Allison, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. And I first want to extend my thank you for the great work that you do for our community in feeding people in need, and also to the teams that are represented here who stepped up immediately to say yes to this campaign, to come together. I think what we found is over the course of our relationships together that we are stronger together than we are as individuals, and we can make a big difference. And this is proof of that. So this concept really began actually back in April when we saw the need during the COVID crisis when it started, that to recognize the need that was there. And then unfortunately, the George Floyd killing really exacerbated that problem because we lost even more ability to get food in certain places. And so I'll spout one of your statistics, which I'm very familiar with, which is 1 in 8 Minnesotans and 1 in 5 children are food insecure. And so I think this was a real opportunity for the sports community to come together to meet a specific need within our community and to make a difference. And then it really ballooned up as we reached out to other media entities across the state. So I'm really proud of the fact that organizations like the Minnesota Broadcasters Association stepped in, contacted all of the TV and radio stations across the state, most of whom participated in this, so that we can help food banks even outside the Twin Cities with all the Feeding America food banks. Print and online partners, Star Tribune, The Athletic, MinPost, those type of organizations stepped in. And then we also had leadership across the board from the folks who are on this call from each one of the teams. Specific. I know I'm going to forget someone, but I'm thankful for their participation. Chris Carr at the Star Tribune, Dan Seaman at Hubbard Radio, Wendy Paulson at the Minnesota Broadcasters Association are just some of those few key partners who have helped us to garner this community of people to make a difference for our community. And then we had some great support from the Minnesota Grocers Association, who reached out to their constituents to get help. And then also, key partners, like when you see organizations who normally compete, the Cub Foods and the Kowalskis came together to make an impact in this as well. So especially proud of the relationships that we have here amongst this group, but across the state, the people who stepped up to really try to make a difference and have an impact across the state to meet the growing need of hunger across the state. So I spoke of many of those great partners, all of whom are represented here, and I'm honored to pass the microphone over to Brett Tabor at the Vikings, who is one of those key partners from the team's standpoint. Brett.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everyone. Just want to thank you for everyone joining in. Thank you to all my colleagues with the professional sports teams who have stepped up to help make this possible. Really, I think a lot of people don't recognize the power and the platform that sports has to make a difference in our communities. And that's something that we on this call don't take lightly at all. And so you're seeing before you here a number of executives from sports teams here in the Twin Cities whose entire focus is on how we can create change in our communities through community relations, through social impact. And so that it's an honor for all of us to be able to be involved in a great project like this and to be able to give back into our community, as Wayne and Allison said, or Mike and Allison have said, our community that needs it most at a time like this during the COVID-19 pandemic is something that all of us are very focused on at this time, and our teams as well. Our athletes are cognizant of the power that they have and the platform that they have to help create change. And that's something that all of them wanted to give back to as part of this campaign. So with our athletes being able to use their voice, with teams being able to use their resources and auction items as part of this campaign, it's something that we're very excited about to be able to help give back this time. And I think also, specifically with the Vikings, as all the other teams will mention as well, this doesn't stop here today with just this campaign, but continues as our community needs us in this time and even in the times when things are better. It's still something that's a priority for all of us. So I know Kyle Rudolph and Adam Thielen have been great supporters of Second Harvest Heartland and their efforts throughout the pandemic as well. And it's just great for us to be able to give back to this campaign too. But all the teams have done tremendous work. And so I also want to pass it this time to my good friend at the Minnesota Wild, Wayne Peterson.
Thanks, Brett, and good morning, everybody. The Minnesota Wild have a mission of creating a greater state of hockey. And I'm lucky that in my role, that's something I get to do every day. And when Mike Dimond contacted the Minnesota Wild about participating in the Home Teams versus Hunger campaign, it was a no-brainer, and we were happy to jump in and roll up our sleeves and address the big need of hunger across the state of Minnesota. And one term you often hear in sports is teamwork. And it's been an honor to work with all my peers at the different teams. And I'll tell you, this is at least the fourth time that we've come together since the pandemic hit in March, and then the civil unrest began in May, that we have come together to collaborate and use our platforms, like Brett talked about. We all have great platforms, but as a group, it's an incredible platform, and we used it to do good in the community. And I'm incredibly proud of the work that we all did. And I want to thank Mike Dimond and at Fox Sports North for all the work you did in organizing this. And it's been a real pleasure to be a part of it, and looking forward to working with everybody here on future projects to improve our community. So with that, I'm pleased to introduce to my friend from Minnesota Timberwolves and Minnesota Lynx, Jennifer Ridgway.
Thank you, Wayne. Right now is a critical time for Minnesotans, and as Allison, Mike, Brett, and Wayne identified, youth and their families are really facing unprecedented levels of hunger and food insecurity, and really experiencing unforeseeable economic consequences from the pandemic. And as you know, many communities continue to face systemic inequalities, and the role professional sports teams and their athletes can serve is incredibly powerful. And our ability to influence and raise awareness and drive social change is celebrated. And as my colleagues on this call have shared, we all are united in joining our forces together. So all of our athletes' leadership, both off the court and off the field and in service into the community, is such a strong catalyst for positive change. And so I know I'm joined by all my colleagues on this call that celebrate the power of us coming together, and certainly inspired by the leadership of Mike Dimond at FSN and Allison and the Second Harvest team to share our resources collectively and work together hand in hand to drive change, specifically for under-resourced communities. We're really fortunate that both the NBA and the WNBA encourages our players to use their voices as catalysts for change. We've seen tremendous leadership from all of our players when it comes to supporting our communities. So it's a really powerful time in our society and in our state. And you know, I truly believe that Home Teams versus Hunger is a great example of how we can all come together for a common goal in helping support our community. And so with that, I'd like to introduce my friend and colleague, Nancy O'Brien with the Minnesota Twins.
Good morning, everybody. Delighted to be here and really delighted to be part of this program. I do want to start by thanking Mike Dimond and the entire Fox Sports North staff. Really, Mike did a great job in talking about all the partners that were brought together, and that really was at the leadership of Mike and his team. And without that vision and leadership, I don't think we would be reporting the great success and collaboration that the Twins were delighted to be part of. So thank you, Mike, and all the Fox folks either on this call or back at the office doing all the important work that they do. I also want to thank all of my colleagues here for continuing to be able to collaborate. We're organizations that by nature are competitive. We are most often recognized by wins and losses, but when it comes to impacting the community, this is where we all really come together. And it's not about who is doing one thing versus the other. It's when we can come together as a united front that I think we have a really the best opportunity for impact, and it was really special to be part of this. I think what struck myself and the Twins is when you look at the numbers that Allison touched upon and Mike touched upon as well in his comments. The need is so tremendous, and it's throughout the state, which is what really was amazing about this campaign. And these are people that are our neighbors. It's not somewhere else in the city or the state. These are people that are in our immediate community that we have the opportunity to be impacting, which is always something that's important for the Twins organization. And like all of my counterparts, it's part of our DNA as organizations, and we're really, the ability to make that impact in our community is something that we take seriously, and it's something that we'll continue to be there for. I also think this year's is with all of the challenges has shown that commitment in many ways, and it has also shown that as individual teams, I think I can speak collectively for everybody, we're going to continue to be there. We're going to continue to identify what those needs are because they're ever changing. We're part of this community. Our families are part of this community. We're delighted to be part of this effort, and we're looking forward to many more opportunities to work together and to do impactful work for our neighbors. With that, I would like to pass it off to my friend Mike Wierzbicki from the University of Minnesota Gophers.
Thanks, Nancy. It's a pleasure to be here this morning on behalf of Gopher Athletics and the University of Minnesota. And I think like my colleagues have said, you know, it's been a challenging time for all of us and for our state and our world. And I think throughout this pandemic, you've seen our sports organizations come together really early on to talk about how do we come together as a unit and how do we return to sports. But really, as others have said, credit to Mike Dimond and the team at FSN for bringing this group together about something bigger than sports. And how do we come together as sports organizations and do something that can impact our community. So thank you, Mike, for the efforts from you and your team, and obviously Allison for everything you and Second Harvest do. This was about something bigger than just, what's going on in the field. And for us at the U, we're lucky to have student athletes and coaches and staff from the state of Minnesota, but also from all over the nation, all over the world. And when they get to Minneapolis, they become Minnesotans, and it becomes more than, becomes part of our community. And we always talk about excelling in the classroom, on the competition field, but also in the community. And so this outreach initiative was really important to us to find a way that we can continue to give back and support those that support us, and something that we'll always continue to do. And the Home Teams vs. Hunger campaign is one piece of, like everyone else has mentioned, a greater community outreach effort related to COVID-19, community support initiatives, social justice activism, other disaster relief efforts that we want to be a part of and support. And I think likewise, we will always step where we can to support our community, and especially support those that are in the most need. So we're really proud and honored to be part of this initiative and the success that we've had, and look forward to any other initiatives that we can be part of to support our great community here in Minneapolis and the Twin Cities and state of Minnesota as a whole. And so with that being said, I'd like to pass it off to my friend and colleague with the Minnesota United, Corey Frankenberg.
Thank you, Mike. Well said. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I do want to thank Fox Sports North for leading the charge on this, and all the other teams, Second Harvest, our broadcasters, our grocers, everyone that could really come together during this. I feel like I use the word unprecedented like 80 times a day, but unprecedented time. When we got the email initially from Fox Sports North, the United were really excited to get on board. I think it was the second day of when it was announced that schools were closing. Our midfielder, Ethan Finley, called me and was like, what are we gonna do to feed the kids? And I was like, you're right. Like, what can we do? So we did an initial food drive with our stadium and Second Harvest donating all of our food that would be used for the season, as well as a school drive with the Sheridan Story. From there, Minnesota United partnered with Allianz Field, Allianz Life Insurance, and Keystone Community Services to host a free farmers market at the last Friday of every month. We just had our one this past September. We're looking to evaluate how we move forward into the winter, because we know the need's just not going to go away anytime soon. So we're really excited to continue those options, but coming on board with, quite frankly, some powerhouse teams in our market. It was really excited to kind of join our efforts, and we know that teams necessarily don't have the answers, but we certainly have resources and the ability to amplify the importance of this message. And it doesn't stop here. And as everyone has mentioned, we're looking forward to different ways we can collaborate moving forward, because it's going to be a continual effort from here on out. And this is probably just the beginning. So looking forward to working with all of you moving forward. And I believe I'm passing the mic back to Allison.
Back to me. Yeah. Thanks, Corey. And thanks, everyone. You've talked about how you influence and can amplify messages. There's one other thing you do. You inspire us. And I know when this campaign was going on, you inspired the team here at Second Harvest Heartland, we are working around the clock to meet this need, but you inspire our communities every day, and we need a shot in the arm. And so thank you for that. We really appreciate it. And we were cheering everyone on from Second Harvest headquarters, and I know across the Feeding America food banks. But on behalf of Minnesota's Feeding America food banks, thank you for contributing towards the fight against hunger, especially during this pandemic. Your reach will be statewide. You will help folks across our great state, and we will be forever grateful. So thank you, and let's keep going in some way. And I cheer on all your teams faithfully, because I am a true Minnesotan, but I just think that inspiration has been a real needed component of this. So thank you. And finally, I hope everyone listening today will join this effort and help in whatever way they can. Give financial resources. That's certainly a very efficient way to help us. We can turn $1 into 3 meals, so we can leverage your donation like nobody's business. And you could reach out to volunteer too, either at one of the food banks across the state or your local food shelf. I also think it's important to mention to folks to use their voice and advocate for smart hunger policies like the SNAP program, We need that. SNAP is the closest thing to a silver bullet we have to ending hunger. And it's important, especially in a crisis like this, that we have a strong SNAP program to help families get through. And I think also part of what we do here, many weeks a month, is talk about hunger in our community. And using your voices is so important, and the voices of your athletes is so important to stripping away that stigma for people who need a little help right now, some for the first time ever. Make it okay to ask for help. And that is always what we're trying to do, is just make sure folks know that we are here. The food banks and the food shelves across the state stand alongside this community, and it is our mission to help anyone who needs it. So everyone's welcome, and just appreciate you all using your voices to help make it okay. So thanks so much. And Elizabeth, I think we'll do questions.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thanks, Allison, and thanks, panel. So we have a question from Joanne Wild Forever Johnson. Love that. She says, this is inspiring. Have any other states organized a campaign like this with all sports teams joining in? Can we figure out how to export this around the country? So thanks for the question, Joanne. We love that idea. It sounds as though the DC area had a similar campaign going, but we know that this is certainly unique. So we would love to help other states kind of use our playbook. We also have a question from Chelsea in Maple Grove. She's wondering if it's too late to help since the campaign is wrapped up. Allison, I think you spoke to that a little bit, but I would love to have you reiterate how folks can get involved and help.
Yeah, I'm happy to. And Chelsea, great question. It is never too late to help. And one point I'd like to make too is that we have been through this great campaign in the last few weeks that has been so important in our efforts here at all the food banks and in the Feeding America food banks in Minnesota. But this crisis is going to be prolonged. And I ask all of you, whoever's tuning in, these teams to stick with us because we still need your help. And so, Chelsea, you can give a donation. It's never too late. Go to twoharvest.org. We will make sure it gets in that pot and goes statewide. But again, you can also volunteer your time if you have it at food shelves or food banks across the state. Use your voice to advocate for smart hunger relief policies like SNAP. And also just have a conversation with your family and friends in your community to make sure people know where to access help if they need it, and to make it okay to ask for help. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, thanks, Chelsea. Thanks, Allison. I'd love to open that one up to the panel if anybody would like to add sort of what your organizations are asking folks to do to keep supporting the community in these tough times. All right. Great. Well, we'll move on to our third question here from Gary in White Bear Lake. Gary says, you mentioned, each team representative mentioned that there's more to come. What's next for your team supporting the community as we enter the winter of COVID-19? Maybe we'll start with Jen. Would you be willing to kick us off? There we go.
Absolutely. Am I unmuted?
You're unmuted. We can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you. So next for our team is we actually just launched a new civic engagement platform called Pack the Vote, and it's specific to providing resources, educational resources that are nonpartisan. And so we do encourage all of the communities across the state of Minnesota and nationwide to register to vote, really exercise your right to vote. We're actually hosting a number of in-person community engagement voter registration events. We'll be launching one this afternoon over in St. Paul, where our players and coaches will be involved in a very COVID-19 friendly way. And so I think civic engagement is a great way for teams to become involved. Our players, our coaches, business and basketball operations staff are all committed to supporting this platform. And you know, as Allison referenced, I mean, there's legislation across all different platforms, both local, state, and national. And so it's really important to become involved in legislation specific to SNAP programs, et cetera. that support under-resourced communities. And so we'll continue to use our platform and work closely with our players as well to also inspire and raise awareness for food banks across the state of Minnesota.
That's exciting. Thank you. Mike Dimond, can we hear from you next?
Happy to. I was a little remiss in my comments to not thank the Second Harvest staff who just fully engaged on this, and specifically Heather Olson, the work that she did on this project. It couldn't have been successful without her efforts, and I worked closely with her, and she, talk about somebody who has a passion for your mission. Heather carries that very well. And before I mention the other things, I also want to say, look, no offense to all you folks, but our goal should be to put you guys out of a job, right? So our goal should be to end hunger and then to make you go someplace else to find work. But that's going to be a ways in coming. So we have a lot to do in order to make that happen. But we have to focus on small steps to get to that point, and it's important to keep that on. As far as Fox Sports North goes, we have a number of community initiatives that we work on. We have to figure out what's next with regard to this one and have some conversations as we debrief about it. But we support other hunger initiatives, specifically Feed My Starving Children. So we also are very involved with that organization. We're very involved with the Boys and Girls Clubs in the state. In the Twin Cities quite a bit, so we've done some projects there. Actually helped with their food bank that they set up in their gym. So Southside is a club that 1 block away from where the George Floyd incident happened. That community was specifically targeted, for hunger relief with respect to the resources that they lost in the aftermath of that social unrest. And so that's an area as well. But one other thing that we do collectively as a group with all the sports teams to celebrate is another initiative called actually Home Team Scholarship, where we provide a scholarship to Boys and Girls Club Youth of the Year participants in the state. So this isn't the only opportunity for the teams to come together and have come together around many, many initiatives. And it really speaks to the philanthropic leaning that the state has and that these great sports teams have together.
Nancy, can we hear from you next? Okay, looks like we're having a little bit of trouble getting, there we go.
There we go. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I would like to just take a second to highlight our Twins Community Fund, who in a typical year, which obviously this is not, focuses on engaging youth and improving lives through the games of baseball and softball. And obviously with what's going on in our community, there are greater issues than kids having access to play. And so we established an emergency fund that recently released a second wave of grants focused on kids, education, food insecurity, and homelessness. So through the community fund, that pivot to really focus on the current needs of kids in our community. So really proud of that work and the continued work that emergency fund and the impact that it will make.
Great.
Elizabeth, maybe I'll wrap up here and pick up on something Mike said. I say it all the time, Mike, put us out of business. Go for it. We will be fine, and this community will be way better for it. So I think we can, especially here in the Heartland where we have more food than people, we just need to be smart about connecting it. We need help to do that. That would be a wonderful legacy for all of us if we can do that. I do agree we have a road ahead of us. But boy, that's our goal here in our mission, to end it.
Thanks,
So
Allison.
no offense taken, Mike.
That's right. We love that. All right, so we have already run out of minutes together. Thank you so much for the conversation and for the vision and for the help. It's been a wonderful morning that caps a wonderful campaign. We're going to close with a thank you video and featuring some of the folks who have helped us along the way here, and you might just recognize some of them.
Thank you, Minnesota,
for coming together to fight hunger.
Your incredible generosity is making a difference.